The emergency klaxons on Threshold Station died mid-wail, leaving behind a silence more terrifying than the noise. Corporal Jace Renner pressed himself against the bulkhead of the commercial district, his breathing controlled despite the adrenaline flooding his system. Somewhere in the maze of vendor stalls and neon-lit storefronts, people were dying. He'd been browsing a curio shop when the attack began, methodical, surgical, and utterly ruthless. The targets weren't random civilians. Through the chaos, Jace had glimpsed the assassins. 4 figures moving like liquid shadow, their ceremonial blades flashing as they carved a path toward something specific. Someone specific. Jace spotted her when the crowd parted for a fraction of a second. A Velthi child, no more than 8 years old by human standards, frozen against a vendor's stall like a deer in headlights. Her crystalline skin refracted the emergency lights into prismatic shards of color, making her painfully visible. She clutched a small holographic device to her chest, tears streaming down her face in luminescent trails. The assassins were closing in. 20 meters. 15. Station security was engaged elsewhere. Jace could hear the plasma fire echoing from the upper levels. This had been planned, coordinated to pull the guards away from this exact location. Professional hit, military precision. The child was going to die. Jace's legs moved before his brain finished processing the decision. His drill instructor's voice echoed in his memory. A soldier's job isn't to survive, it's to make sure others do. He'd always thought that was just romantic bullshit designed to make young recruits feel heroic. Turned out it was true, and the way Naibar covered the distance in 8 seconds flat, his boots skidding on the polished deck plating as he threw himself between the child and the descending blades. His arms wrapped around her small form, his body curling to create a shell of flesh and bone between her and death. The first blade hit high on his left shoulder, punching through muscle with a sensation like frozen fire. Jace's vision whited out for a moment, but his grip on the child didn't loosen. The second strike caught him across the upper back. He felt the blade scrape against his shoulder blade, felt the hot rush of blood soaking his shirt. "Don't look," he gasped to the child beneath him. Her body was trembling, her rapid heartbeat hammering against his chest like a small animal. "Keep your eyes closed." The third blade pierced his right side, sliding between ribs with surgical precision. One of the assassins knew human anatomy. That was bad. The fourth strike targeted his spine, but Jace twisted at the last second, taking it across his lower back instead. The pain was transcendent now, beyond anything he'd experienced in 2 tours of duty. His body was screaming at him to move, to run, to do anything except stay in this kill zone. He stayed. The 5th blade went through his thigh, pinning his leg to the deck. Jace bit down on his tongue to keep from screaming, tasting copper and salt. The child whimpered beneath him, her small hands gripping his arms. "You're okay," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if he was reassuring her or himself. "You're going to be okay." The 6th strike caught his calf, and Jace felt his leg go numb. 2 blades buried in the same limb. He wasn't walking away from this even if he survived. Above him, one of the assassins spoke in a language he didn't recognize. Another responded, their tone clinical and detached. They were discussing whether to finish the job or cut their losses. Jace could feel their hesitation, could sense them weighing the cost of being caught against the value of completing their mission. The 7th blade sliced across his forearm when he instinctively tried to protect his head. The wound was shallow compared to the others, but it severed something important because his left hand went numb and useless. "Human," one of the assassins said in accented standard, their voice carrying a note of what might have been respect or contempt. Jace couldn't tell which. "You die for someone who is not even your species." "Why?" Jace coughed, blood speckling his lips. "Because she's a kid," he managed. "That's reason enough." Silence. Then the 8th blade came down, aimed for his neck. Jace jerked his head to the side at the last possible instant, and the blade sliced across his shoulder instead, opening another line of fire across already traumatized flesh. Then finally, the cavalry arrived. Plasma bolts lit up the commercial district like lightning, and Jace heard the assassins retreat with inhuman speed. Hands, so many hands, were touching him, trying to assess his injuries, trying to move him. But Jace held on to the child until he heard a voice speaking in gentle, melodic tones, until he felt her being carefully extracted from his protective embrace. "Safe," he whispered, his vision tunneling to a pinpoint. "Is she safe?" She is safe human, someone answered. Because of you. Darkness took him then, warm and soft and utterly complete. When consciousness returned, it arrived in fragments. Pain blessedly distant and muted, the smell of something like ozone and flowers, the sensation of floating in warm water, voices speaking in a language that sounded like music played on crystal chimes. Jace's eyes opened to find himself staring at a ceiling that seemed to be made of living light, patterns flowing across its surface like auroras trapped under glass. This definitely wasn't a human medical facility. He turned his head, slowly, carefully, and froze. 7 warriors stood around his bed in perfect formation. Their armor was unlike anything he'd seen in military briefings. Crystalline plates that seemed to grow from their bodies, overlapping and interlocking with organic precision. Each suit pulsed with soft bioluminescence, and the symbol on their chest plates, crossed silver blades over a black star, marked them as something important. Well, Jace croaked, his throat raw. This is either really good or really bad. The nearest warrior, a female with facial ridges that glowed pale purple, inclined her head. Neither, Corporal Renner. This is unprecedented. A commotion at the door interrupted whatever she might have said next. The warriors parted smoothly, revealing a small figure that darted through their ranks with the determined energy of youth. Saelri looked remarkably healthy for someone who'd nearly been assassinated. Her crystalline skin had regained its natural opalescence, and her large eyes, the color of new leaves, fixed on Jace with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. You're awake. She climbed onto a stool beside his bed, ignoring the protective gestures of her guards. The healers said you might not wake up, that humans are too fragile for our medicine. But I told them you would. I knew you would, kid. Jace managed a weak smile. You okay? I'm fine. You saved me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You took 8 blades for me. 8. Do you know what that means? That I'm either very brave or very stupid. A deep voice spoke from behind the warriors. Both, perhaps. But also that you have invoked something we have not seen in 3 generations. The warriors parted again, and a male Vaelti stepped forward. His armor bore more insignia than the others, and his presence commanded immediate respect.
I am Kavran, first blade of the Kaelvar.
We are the elite guard of House Vatheron. He placed a fist over his chest in salute. And you, Corporal Jace Renner, have invoked the Kaethva, the life debt. Jace blinked. The what? Saelri took his hand, her touch cool and smooth. It's our oldest law. You shielded me with your body, took wounds meant for me, asked for nothing, expected nothing. Her eyes were solemn beyond her years. That creates a debt that can never truly be repaid, but must be honored forever. These warriors, Kaevran continued, gesturing to the assembled Kaelvar, are now sworn to your service. As am I, as is every member of House Vatheron who hears of your deed. You are bound to us and we to you until the stars grow cold. I don't understand, Jace said weakly. I just couldn't let her die. That's not something that needs payment. That, said the female warrior, is precisely why it must be honored. I am Shalara, second blade. You acted with Tashel, pure intention, uncorrupted by calculation. Such actions are precious, Corporal. They must be answered. One by one, the other warriors introduced themselves, each pledging their service with formal words that carried the weight of sacred oaths. Jace's head spun, trying to process it all. My mother wants to meet you, Saelri said softly. The High Keeper of House Vatheron. She says you've done something impossible. You've shown us that humanity possesses Tashael, that your species is capable of pure courage. She squeezed his hand. The assassins wanted to start a war. They thought killing me would make my mother hate humans. But you stopped them. Not with weapons or politics, just by refusing to let a child die alone. Exhaustion pulled at Jace like an undertow. I'm just a soldier, he murmured. Nothing special? No, Kavran said, and his voice carried absolute conviction. You are Kaeth blessed, and that changes everything. As sleep claimed him again, Jace felt Saelri's hand holding his, felt the presence of 7 elite warriors standing vigil around his bed. He'd taken 8 blades for a stranger's child and awakened to find himself at the center of something far larger than himself. Sometimes courage wasn't about grand gestures or strategic brilliance. Sometimes it was just about refusing to look away when someone needed you, regardless of the cost, even if that cost was everything.